The wind clawed through the skeletal remains of the prison gate, carrying a hollow metallic groan that seemed to breathe of its own accord. Every gust whispered of those who never left, not through release, but through something far darker. The camera lingers on the rusted lock, impossibly swinging open and shut, despite no visible movement around it. Beyond the yard is a battlefield of decay. Shattered spotlights, overturned benches, graffiti etched in symbols no one remembers painting. The concrete beneath the moss seems to pulse faintly underfoot, as if the earth itself resents being disturbed. The air grows heavier with every step forward, a suffocating weight pressing against the lungs. A single light flickers from deep inside the cell block, rhythmic, purposeful, drawing attention like a beacon for the damned. Whatever waits inside knows it has been found, and it is smiling in the dark. Inside, the temperature drops instantly. Breath turns to mist, and every sound carries too far. The corridor stretches longer than it should, the geometry itself subtly wrong, bending inward as if the walls are exhaling. The air hums with a low electrical tension, punctuated by distant footsteps that never align with movement. Each barred cell door bears carvings, words gouged deep into the iron, letters repeating as if written by countless trembling hands over years of isolation. The flashlight beam catches movement behind one door, but there's no space for anyone to stand there. Then, the hum changes. It becomes a voice not heard but felt, an echo resonating directly in the chest, repeating a phrase that cannot be understood yet commands attention all the same. The realization settles like lead. The prison isn't empty. It's waiting. A shattered sign marks the next room. Surveillance. Inside, walls bloom with mildew and static hums from lifeless monitors, yet one screen still glows, showing live footage from cell 12. Though the power grid is dead, the screen flickers between images of emptiness and flashes of movement. Something pacing just beyond view. On a nearby desk, old tapes are stacked neatly, each labeled with dates that stop 50 years ago. When the tape rolls, the sound isn't what's expected. It's not speech, but breathing, panicked, shallow, and followed by scraping metal as though something were crawling through vents. Suddenly, the monitor shifts. A face appears for a single frame, mouth open in a silent scream. The power surges. Sparks burst, and then laughter, faint and wet, from behind the desk. The next hallway reeks of rust and wet stone. The flashlight reveals streaks of dried crimson that form a path deeper inside. The texture is wrong. The smears shimmer faintly under light, as though alive. The walls seem to absorb the illumination, swallowing color until only darkness remains. When the beam passes over a message written in blood, it reads differently with each glance. Sometimes a warning, sometimes a plea, then a loud metallic clang. A cell door slams shut on its own. The noise ripples through the corridor like thunder. Dust drifts down from the ceiling, and for a brief moment the shape of a handprint forms in it, fingers spread wide, pressing outward from inside the wall. Whatever happened here was recorded, not in ink, but in the foundation itself. At the end of the hall, a spiral staircase descends into deeper shadow. The metal steps groan as weight meets them, a sound that travels upward through the empty floors. Whispers rise from below, not loud, but layered. A chorus of broken sentences and unfinished prayers. Each turn down reveals more of the unseen depth, until light from above no longer reaches. The beam of the flashlight flickers, catching glimpses of old graffiti, tally marks, names, warnings scratched into steel. Then, without reason, the voices stop. The silence is so complete that the pulse in the ear becomes deafening. And in that silence, something exhales right beside the listener, close enough to move their hair, The final step below is wet. The final stair gives way to a basement corridor lined with pipes dripping condensation. The ground squelches underfoot. Soft, like something organic lies beneath the concrete. A dull red glow pulses from a fissure in the far wall, the rhythm uncomfortably human, as though a massive heart beats somewhere within the structure. The air is metallic, filled with the scent of rust and forgotten air. The flashlight stutters and reveals a hatch at the center of the floor, half concealed by decades of grime. Its handle is slick, sticky, refusing to turn without protest. A low thud echoes from underneath, followed by a voice, muffled yet pleading. The sound isn't ancient, it's recent. Someone is down there, or something that still remembers how to sound like one. The hatch groans open with a shriek that seems to echo from the bones of the prison itself. A staircase descends into a small, circular chamber lined with what appear to be old soundproof panels, except they move slightly, pulsing like skin. On a pedestal in the center rests an ancient tape recorder, its reels still turning though no power source is visible. As the tape plays, a voice fills the space, calm, deliberate, too articulate to be human anymore. It speaks of sins buried beneath the cells, and the pact of silence signed in blood. Every syllable vibrates the floor, stirring something deep within the walls. Then, abruptly, the voice stops, and from behind the panels, the sound of someone breathing begins again. Closer, louder. A side passage reveals a room filled with shattered mirrors, their frames rusted and warped. The glass reflects not the present but flickering images of the past. Prisoners screaming, guards whispering into darkness, and shadows dragging something across the floor. One mirror remains intact at the far end, clean, polished, untouched by time. The reflection within does not match the observer's movements. It lags, stutters, then smiles independently. A hand rises from inside the glass, pressing outward, fogging the surface. Cracks form around its palm as though the reflection itself is trying to escape. The silence fractures as the mirror shatters, and in its broken shards, the observer's reflection is nowhere to be found. The deeper chambers pulse with sound now, rhythmic like a heartbeat syncing with footsteps. The group gathers in what used to be the infirmary, its tables overturned, glass cabinets shattered. On the walls are handprints, dozens of them, smeared in dark red, arranged in spirals. Then one of them gasps, beneath their sleeve. Words are appearing on their skin, rising like welts carved from the inside. The letters match those found earlier on the cell doors. Each phrase burns to life, branding the flesh with unseen memory. The room temperature spikes. Whispers hiss from every direction, repeating the same word over and over. When the light flickers, the handprints on the wall are gone. But they've moved closer, now imprinted across everyone's arms. The hall trembles as a door bursts open at the corridor's end, but not from force. It opens gently, almost welcomingly, revealing a figure waiting inside. The shape is human, yet too tall, its head brushing the low ceiling. It wears the remnants of a warden's uniform, insignia burned into the chest, face obscured by a black hood that seems to breathe. In its hand it holds a rusted keyring, each key dripping something thicker than water. The creature tilts its head, as though considering the trespassers with mild curiosity, then speaks without opening its mouth. The words bloom inside their minds. You came for the truth. Then you must confess. The lights explode, plunging everything into black, and the sound of dozens of cell doors slamming echoes all around. Darkness holds them still. Only the soft drip of water punctuates the silence. Then a light flickers. Not from their flashlights, but from within the cells themselves. Behind every bar, something glows faintly. Ash rising like breath, coalescing into shapes that twitch and falter, before settling into the forms of people. The air trembles with whispering, but the words make no sense, looping endlessly, overlapping as if the walls themselves are trying to remember how to speak. The group stands frozen as one of the figures steps forward, pressing its ash-laden face against the bars. Eyes empty, mouths moving. Then all at once every spectral inmate exhales, a single collective sigh that extinguishes the light and replaces it with a choking black smoke that moves with intent, curling toward them like a living thing. When vision returns, they're no longer in the same corridor. The walls are covered in soot, the floor a mosaic of burned footprints that lead it in every direction. The air tastes metallic, sharp. They move cautiously, each step echoing longer than it should, the reverb looping back distorted. Then comes the sound, scratching, frantic, just ahead. They follow it to a heavy metal door, nearly fused shut by corrosion. The scratching stops as the handle is touched. Silence follows, and then a voice from the other side whispers a name, not one of theirs, but one long forgotten. The door creaks open to reveal nothing but dust, swirling upward as though recently disturbed. Yet, amid the particles, faint impressions of hands seem to reach outward from the smoke, desperate to be remembered. The next chamber smells of paper and gasoline. Dozens of filing cabinets line the walls, their drawers warped shut, names scorched into their faces. A lone cabinet stands open, revealing files that haven't aged, crisp, new, bearing photographs of the explorers themselves. Each page lists confessions for crimes never committed. As fingers trace the ink, the letters bleed, the paper ignites without flame. Files crumble to ash in seconds, and from their remains, voices rise, shrill, human, full of pain. The smoke swirls upward, forming faces that scream soundlessly before dissolving into the ceiling. The realization cuts deep. The prison isn't recording what happened. It's rewriting it, and their names are already etched into its story. Ow! Down another hall, an unbroken pane of glass stands embedded in the wall. One-way glass, once used for observation. But now, it reflects them perfectly, despite the darkness. When they move, the reflections hesitate, then begin moving differently, performing actions out of sync. The reflections reach toward the real figures, fingertips aligning against the glass, the barrier trembling with invisible force. Then one reflection stays behind as its counterpart steps away, trapped in place, staring back in panic. The sound of cracking glass builds into a shriek, and from within, blood blooms across the surface like ink in water, spelling words only visible under the trembling flashlight beam. We never left. The last light flickers, and all reflections smile at once. Beneath the observation wing lies the furnace room, where pipes twist like veins and heat radiates from unseen depths. The sound of machinery churns even though no power runs here. The furnace door gapes open, revealing not flame but darkness deeper than any shadow. Something shifts within it, slow, deliberate, aware. The air trembles as a faint light glows from inside, illuminate objects scattered nearby. Burned identification badges, melted chains, teeth fused to metal. Then a deep rumble, like a voice forming from the furnace's core, speaks a single phrase. You're part of it now. The door slams shut with violent force, sending sparks across the floor that form fleeting silhouettes writhing before fading to ash. At the top of a corroded staircase lies a door marked Warden. Its lettering has melted into the metal, unreadable except for faint scorch lines. The handle is warm to the touch. Inside, Time seems frozen. A desk covered in rotted papers, a chair turned toward a massive window overlooking the prison yard. The air carries the stench of burnt cloth and something sweetly decayed. On the desk rests a single ledger, untouched by dust, open to a page filled with names, each crossed out in crimson ink, except the last few. Their own. The sound of distant chains drags closer, echoing like slow footsteps. Then the chair turns on its own, revealing nothing in it. Only a dark, human-shaped impression scorched into the upholstery, still smoking faintly. Behind the desk hangs a portrait. The warden himself, painted in oil, uniform immaculate, eyes piercing through the years. Yet, under the flicker of their light, the painting moves. His gaze follows them wherever they shift, his mouth curving into an imperceptible smile that wasn't there before. When they look away, faint tapping begins, rhythmic, patient, coming from behind the frame. One dares to touch it, and the frame pulses under the fingers like a living organ. The tapping stops. Then, with a sharp crack, the canvas splits open down the middle, revealing a dark slit from which smoke spills out. The face beneath the paint stirs, its eyes rolling upward to meet theirs, and a voice hums quietly from within. You read what you shouldn't have. Beyond the office, a steel door leads into an archive, hundreds of drawers stacked from floor to ceiling, labels rusted and curling. A cold draft sweeps through the aisles, whispering faint syllables like pages turning on their own. As they open one drawer, a sickening realization dawns. Each folder contains hair, teeth, or bones, tagged with prisoner numbers and dates of redemption. The deeper they search, the more recent the dates become, up to the present day. One drawer trembles violently before bursting open, spewing ash and teeth across the floor. From within, a voice rasps. He never released us. The air grows dense with despair as all drawers begin sliding open simultaneously, slamming shut in unison, keeping rhythm with a heartbeat that isn't theirs. They find a journal wedged behind the furnace pipes, the leather cover blistered, the ink bled through pages. It chronicles experiments, rituals disguised as rehabilitation, conducted under the warden's authority. Each entry speaks of conversion, of merging guilt into structure, and of a living penitence born from despair. The final pages are scrawled in desperation, declaring success. The prison breathes now. It confesses for us all. As the words are read aloud, the walls respond, groaning, shifting as if recognizing the language. The lights dim, and distant screaming fills the corridors again, not from memory, but from the present. The building itself seems to pulse in sync with the heartbeat that's grown louder, faster, unstoppable. At the office's end stands a tall mirror, its frame carved with Latin inscriptions now half-melted and unreadable. Unlike the others, it reflects only the room, not them. As they approach, faint movement flickers within the glass. A figure in a warden's coat, walking slowly toward the reflection's edge. When it reaches the boundary, its gloved hand presses against the inside of the mirror, palm to glass. The surface ripples like water. The reflection leans close, and the faint outline of its face, hollow eyes, skin like paper, whispers a single word: return. The mirror shatters, and for a split second before the shards hit the floor, every fragment shows their own faces twisted into the warden's grin. A sudden siren wails through the corridors, sharp and distorted, though no power remains in the building. Red lights flash across the cracked walls, each pulse casting shadows that move faster than their sources. The group runs through the endless hallway, but every turn brings them back to the same place. The same peeling paint, the same fallen sign reading lockdown in effect. They shout for one another, yet their voices echo out of sync like playback from an unseen speaker. One echo answers late, saying something entirely different. Panic builds as the siren lowers in pitch, transforming into a deep hum that shakes the ground. The air thickens, vibrating with unseen motion, and suddenly all the lights die at once, leaving the echoing words. Round 2 begins. When light returns, they stand in the same entrance hall from the night they first arrived. Yet everything is subtly wrong. The graffiti has changed. Words once unreadable now spell their own names in dripping paint. The air feels heavier, time thicker. They hear footsteps behind them and turn, only to see themselves entering through the door again. Another set of explorers, identical in every detail. The doubles move naturally, unaware of the originals, replaying their every motion a few seconds behind. The loop continues, overlapping, until a chorus of footsteps fills the space. One double stops mid-step and turns its head sharply, eyes glowing like molten glass. The original realizes too late. The doubles, errant reflections. Their replacements. In the central yard, the sky churns with dark clouds circling directly above the prison tower. The old clock, long dead, begins to tick again, backward. The tower windows glow, and in the rhythmic flashes they glimpse something inside pacing the floors. A massive hourglass stands at the tower's base, half buried in the ground, filled not with sand but with black ash that drifts upward instead of falling. The air bends around it, distorting the horizon. As they watch, the ash within starts to form familiar silhouettes. Their own. The ticking grows louder, faster, until it becomes a heartbeat. The group realizes the ash isn't counting time. It's consuming it. Every second erased from the clock takes part of them with it. They seek escape through a side wing and find a cell unlike any other. Inside, dozens of doors line every wall, each leading into darkness. Every door they open reveals the same room again, unchanged. The same flickering bulb, the same single chair, the same whispering from nowhere. As the loop continues, the whispers become words, repeating their thoughts back to them seconds before they speak. The walls tremble, doors slamming on their own in perfect rhythm. Finally, one door remains open. The light within is softer, golden, almost welcoming. They hesitate, knowing the prison's tricks, yet the sound of breathing behind them forces the choice. The door closes as they step through, sealing itself seamlessly into the wall, leaving nothing behind. The golden light fades to reveal the same gate where everything began. The entrance to the prison, silent and still. The wind howls across the yard, and the faint hum of the generator returns. Their equipment lies scattered, untouched, as if no time had passed. They step forward cautiously, the gate wide open, and outside the forest gleams under morning fog. Relief washes through until the faint metallic groan returns. The gate begins to swing shut on its own. One runs forward, desperate to stop it, but the moment they touch the cold iron, the scene resets. The first scream, the first flickering light, the first echo from inside, all replay perfectly. They are back at the beginning, and the prison, patient and alive, starts its confession again. The air hums. Not a sound, not exactly. More like vibration in the bones, pulsing from the foundation. Dust sifts from the ceiling in rhythm, as though the entire building breathes with one heavy lung. The group, disoriented, realizes they are once again inside, though none remember re-entering. The hallways twist differently now, wires hanging like veins, lights flickering in patterns too deliberate to be random. A low thudding grows from deep beneath their feet, echoing upward in sync with their heartbeats. Then, faintly, music begins, a warped lullaby played through distant intercoms. The tune repeats, each loop more distorted, until words emerge in the melody. Lay down your guilt. The walls remember. The vibrations intensify until one wall cracks, bleeding dust like old marrow. The music leads them into a chapel buried beneath cell block C. Once a place of forced confession, wooden pews crumble in rows, and the pulpit stands blackened, split down the middle. On the altar rests an antique phonograph, its horn spinning though the record is broken. From it comes the same lullaby, but this time layered with human voices singing out of sync, pleading for forgiveness between the notes. The group approaches carefully. The phonograph stops suddenly and whispers replace the song, clear, individual voices repeating each of their names. One turns to flee, but the pews slam shut behind like jaws. The whispers merge into a single chorus, booming so loud the crucifix above shatters, raining splinters as the walls tremble like vibrating vocal cords. They find old radios scattered throughout the corridor, each whispering fragments of their own recorded voices from earlier that night. Static dances in the air like electricity. One radio plays a conversation that never happened, them begging someone not to open the gate. Another hums in perfect rhythm to the building's pulse. When one of them switches it off, the silence feels alive, pregnant, waiting. Then the static returns from all radios at once, forming one long hiss that begins shaping words. We're not ghosts. We're the recording. The radios melt into the walls, wires threading outward like veins. The realization hits like thunder. The prison hasn't been remembering them. It's been rewriting them over and over, voice by voice. The group stumbles into a vast circular chamber filled with rusted instruments, amplifiers, and steel plates that vibrate on their own. A central speaker towers overhead, cracked open like a wound, humming with dark energy. The sound is unbearable, a low frequency that rattles the ribs and distorts sight itself. The walls ripple, bending light like heat waves, and every echo seems to lag behind reality. Then, through the deafening noise comes a single clear tone, a human scream drawn out to infinity. The scream doesn't come from any of them. It comes from everywhere at once. The sound shifts pitch until it forms the shape of words. Confession complete, and then silence falls, the kind of silence that hurts. When the sound dies, only the faint hum of fluorescent lights remains. The prison feels still for the first time, too still. They walk cautiously back toward the entrance, stepping over shattered debris and broken cables. The air is heavy but calm, the silence absolute. Then, from somewhere deep within, a final note plays. Just one piano key, soft and perfect. It echoes down every corridor, reaching them like a memory. One of them turns back toward the sound and freezes. Down the hall, the warden stands motionless, head tilted, finger pressed against the keys of a piano that shouldn't exist. He lifts his gaze, eyes hollow, and mouths the same words they've heard all night. Begin again. The lights go out one last time. Darkness folds in like a curtain. The walls no longer pulse. The air no longer hums. It feels as if the entire prison is holding its breath. The explorers drift through empty corridors where every sound seems swallowed before it's heard. Then, a single candle burns at the end of the hallway, steady and unnatural. It stands upon a table surrounded by open journals, each written in a different hand but repeating the same line over and over. The walls forgive what the living cannot. The closer they step, the colder the flame burns. And inverse fire flickering in blue. One of them blows it out, and instantly the corridor fills with whispering voices, countless and overlapping, all saying one phrase in unison. You were never outside. They follow the voices into an immense hall lined with thousands of empty chairs facing a raised platform. Dust coats everything except the chairs, each one perfectly clean, as if waiting. The ceiling arches high above, vanishing into shadow. A faint glow rises from the floorboards, and in that pale light, faint footprints appear, leading row by row toward the stage. As they walk, the sound of distant breathing swells, not from the group but from the chairs themselves. The first row shudders as invisible forms begin to sit down, indentations forming in the dust. The audience has arrived. Then a spotlight flickers on at the center of the stage, illuminating a microphone. It hums, alive, waiting for confession. Against reason, he steps onto the stage. The microphone crackles to life without contact, broadcasting every breath through unseen speakers across the prison. His voice shakes as he begins to speak, confessing not crimes, but memories. Guilt buried too deep to face until now. With each word, the unseen audience leans forward, the air thick with hunger. The walls begin to move again, expanding and contracting in rhythm with his speech. The lights above flicker, one by one, revealing spectral faces in the crowd, hollow-eyed, luminous, endlessly listening. When he stops speaking, silence floods in like water. The crowd rises in unison and whispers a single sentence that chills the soul. Your confession is accepted. Your place is kept. The ground shudders violently, dust raining from the rafters. The walls crack, light bleeding through like veins splitting open. Every chair tumbles. Every unseen form screams without sound. The prison convulses, alive, furious, imploding upon itself. The explorers stumble through chaos, chased by collapsing ceilings and bursts of flame that burn without heat. The corridors stretch endlessly again, looping back into one another, each exit leading to the next beginning. Through it all, the same lullaby returns, slower now, mournful. The words echo faintly, "Stay within, stay forgiven." As the structure falls inward, they realize the terrible truth. The prison isn't dying. It's waking. When the rumble stops, everything is gone. The walls, the ceilings, the corridors. They stand in a vast white void, the air still humming faintly. The floor beneath them is smooth concrete, stretching forever. In the distance, the prison reassembles itself piece by piece, suspended midair, like a memory refusing to fade. The group looks to one another, but their faces have changed. Pale, hollow, translucent. The warden appears between them, silent, keys dangling at his side. He opens the ledger one final time and writes new names in crimson ink. Theirs. One last sound fills the space. The turning of a lock. The prison seals itself again, whole and breathing, ready for whoever dares to enter next.